Hello everyone. Hello. Hi. Welcome back to the space. Take a breather. Remember our community guideline, come as you are. We've got incredible panel. We left the best to last, if I may say so myself. No FSO on at the panelist. Ronnie, do we have everyone online? We do. Oh, brilliant. Oh, this is exciting. Okay. Hello, everyone. So, my name is Samra Saeed. If you have any new people who just joined us, I'm co-director here at Arts and Homelessness International, and I'm going to be sharing this panel on academic research in arts and homelessness. And I've got some incredible panelists that I'm going to introduce shortly. And just to say that this panel is going to bring together leading academic and practitioners who have been deeply involved in exploring the intersection of arts, creativity, and homelessness, and how to engage the lived experiences as co-researchers in some of the projects they have been working on for the past year. And we're also together, we're going to be exploring some pressing questions, including the benefits of community-based participatory research, the empowerment of co-researchers, the importance of disciplinary collaboration, and the role that the academic research like Open Universities, Lincoln, other universities plays in supporting the homelessness sector. And our discussion in particular, our conversation this afternoon that conclude this summit, will consider the challenges and opportunities of supporting individuals with lived experience of homelessness to access higher education that Natasha will shortly touch on. But most importantly, we will take a significant step, hopefully, if we can, if time allow us and permit us to co-create a code of practice for working with co-researchers in the homelessness community. So your contribution, your insight, and your suggestion will be invaluable. We do have some flip chart for those people who are in person, so feel free to share that. But I invite everyone that online to also give us your ideas and your suggestion, and we'll hopefully collide all together where our academic thinkers and researchers in the panel to support us with that. And without further ado, let me introduce the panel today. We've got Christina Kuber from Northumbria University here in the United Kingdom, Arts and Homelessness academic researcher. I'm going to let them all in their 2 to 3 minutes introduce themselves. We also have Diane Margaret Rosenthal from New York University, United States of America, and Diana will be joined by her research partner, Kadisha. Do we have Kadisha in the house? Yes, we do. Brilliant. Hello, lovely to have you here. And we got Milena Sebi all the way from Argentina, from Buenos Aires University. And in the house, in person, with me, so I'm not alone, we've got Natasha Steer, Open University here in United Kingdom. Can you please give them a round of applause? Thank you. If I first get Christina. Christina, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good.
Hello.
Just made it back up to Newcastle this afternoon after being down with you yesterday.
I know, I'm really sorry about the storm and the effect of that having on all of us, but we're really grateful to have you online with us. How are you doing, first of all? And 2 to 3 minutes to introduce yourself, your practice, and how would that interlink to the conversation we're going to be having today?
Okay, I'm Chris Cooper. I'm an assistant professor at Northumbria University. Do we have the slides that we sent over?
We do indeed.
Don't know if you can see them, but I'm co-lead on a project we're calling See Me North. I think you can see it now, which is all about coming out from underneath the umbrella of homelessness. So lots and lots of creative activities, using creative activities in the arts to help people sort of grow around their trauma and live wholesome and fulfilling lives beyond that trauma. So not necessarily aiming to heal the trauma, but helping people to grow around it, move beyond having just their basic needs met, towards sort of finding love and belonging in the groups that they join, developing self-esteem and confidence, and moving, like I say, on to having fulfilling lives. And I'll just sort of briefly tell you about what the project is, because it's a bit complicated. If we could have the second slide, that'll give you an idea, because like I say, it's a big one. So I spoke a lot about the first work package really yesterday at the trauma panel, but our first work package is all around trauma-informed care, particularly around the impact of adverse childhood experiences, and thinking about what impact that has on people's development, what impact it has on their cognitive development. thinking about how that impacts throughout their lives, whether it's on relationships or education, employment, that sort of thing, and then thinking about really how it impacts on engagement with services to support them as well. And then thinking about what role does arts and creativity play in helping with some of that. We are also undertaking a local and national evaluation, so we're looking at good practice both across the UK and locally in the northeast of England to see what's happening both with sort of homelessness services, trauma-informed services, and with the arts and creative side. Once we collect that information, we're going to develop a network of all those organisations working in the northeast, and that will be launched on a live signpost website where people can drop in, find the service that they need, find out where they can go get the help they need, and that will be kept live and updated so that they can go and get the help they need whenever they need it. The fourth work package is where we get really fun, bring in the arts and creativity a lot, and we're going to undertake some activities to stand up against stigma, to challenge stigma in public opinion, to challenge stigma in the services, and to challenge some of the self-stigma and loss of self-belief as well. The final work package is 13 workshops across 3 years, where we'll bring together practitioners, service users, anyone working in the field of homelessness, arts and creative partners, and academics, as well as sort of the people who help us lead this, the people with lived experience of homelessness, to really get those conversations going and see how we drive our findings into practice and have sort of real world impact. So that is me, and that's our big project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina. If I bring in Deanna, how are you doing?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm splendid for having you here. How's it going? Just a little bit about your conversation and who you are.
Sure. I'm Diana Margot Rosenthal. I'm an assistant professor / faculty fellow at New York University School of Global Public Health. I'm also the principal investigator on a project called Co-Developing Shelter. Shelter stands for Safe, Healthy Environments and Local Transformation for Equity and Resilience. That was a co-developed title with families with lived experience of homelessness and also our community partners. Our project is really co-developed from beginning to end with families with lived experience of homelessness, and our sort of end goal of this is to co-develop an intervention that's community health based, using a multi-phase optimization framework, which basically you're trying to create an intervention that's the most effective, scalable, and efficient given restrained resources. But what we're doing right now is we're doing a sequential study design where we're doing quantitative surveys and semi-structured interviews in order to find out more information to inform that. But none of this would be possible without our families with lived experience, which is why I'm joined today by Kadisha Davis, who chairs our committee with families with lived experience. So I'd like to introduce her briefly. And Kadisha, you want to introduce yourself? You're on mute.
Oh, hi everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy and excited. I'm a person of lived experience. I was homeless in New York City with my daughter. Now I do advocacy. I'm not in the shelter no more, so we put that out there. I do advocacy now in America, and I do different states and things like that. I help to make sure that people have a voice, and I work with different organizations to make sure that we can change policies and make sure that dependents can get better lives and even prevention from going to shelter.
Brilliant. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for your introduction, and I'm looking forward to our conversation shortly. There's someone that I forgot to introduce, on the most sincerest apologies, but Milena, who's going to go next, is also joined by Linda Cambose, who will be discussing the community engagement strategies in Latin America. If I can get you both to introduce yourself and how you're doing today.
Hi, thank you. I hope you can hear me all right. I'm trying to get later into the conversation. I believe it's in the main channel now, and it's trying to connect to the translation. So hopefully it will be soon here talking with us. So I'm trying to help him with that. We are co-research team from Buenos Aires, Argentina. We are based in Buenos Aires University in the Faculty of Psychology. And we've been working as a team since 2018, by the end of 2018. We are a mixed group with students, activists, teachers, academics, and with people with lived experience in homelessness and others who do not have that life experience. So it's in that diverse group that we create different actions, from more traditional science that would be doing surveys and interviews and creating all that data together and seeing what we need to do next, but also a lot of activities that had to do with this participatory approach. So we host radio workshops in different social organizations. We are part of the Assembly for the Rights of Homeless People in Buenos Aires as well. And we do collective activities for the memory of those who died in the streets. We do festivals and art festivals on different parks. We participate in different actions, more from the activist perspective. So that's a little bit about us. I'm really happy to be here talking with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to open now the floor to conversation amongst us. So I'm going to bring in Diana first. Diana, what are the benefits of community-based participatory research, and what is a good practice from your point of view? And Khadija, feel free to...
First, I actually did forget to say something about the project. Yeah. So our overarching research question, which was co-developed with our families, is that we're actually looking at what barriers exist in the physical and social environments to optimizing health and well-being among children under the age of 5. Mm-hmm. So during the sort of really important developmental years in New York City shelters. So that's the population we're working with.
Thank you.
So it's a big project, so there's a lot to remember. So in terms of community-based participatory research, which we also call CBPR, the benefits of it are it's really facilitates a collaborative, equitable involvement of all partners in a project in all phases of the research. It really promotes co-learning, and it's really mutually beneficial to all parties. Mm. And really, with this type of research, it's informed by the people who are going to be using the end users of the services. And it's not just like academics who are, doing the research and saying, okay, this is what the intervention has to be. It's really sort of by them, for them, but also us co-developing it with them. So it really builds on the strengths and resources of a community, and really recognizes a community as an identity. And it's really sort of I would say, cyclical process in a sense, and it really, you really have to work together throughout the process, including disseminating the findings appropriately. And a lot of it also has to do with language. We've really changed the language when we look at CBPR. We're sort of now looking, we don't say research subjects anymore, we say research participants, because they now have much more of an active role. And then instead of saying the word like we're targeting this type of group, we're engaging this type of group. And the benefits are you really are getting information directly from, like I said, the community, and you're really harnessing that power. And it really integrates that sort of knowledge and intervention for mutual benefit. And I'll bring in Khadija, because Khadija does this firsthand, CBPR. So what would you say your perspective is working on our project doing CBPR?
This is my second project, and I feel like just in general, having people be a part of the system, of the work that we work in, makes a big difference. As I said before, it's beneficial to both parties. I would say for the people for lived experience is to learn what's out there, and to also learn different skills that you could bring to a different job position after you're done your particular project. and it can also help to frame the system to make sure that the people you have left behind in that position can be helped. And if you do fall back, because a lot of times in homelessness is a cycle, so people go multiple times, especially in New York City, homeless throughout their life. So that could be a system that you could maybe even use for yourself again in the future. So you want to make sure that you leave whatever you left behind better than you found it. For the research side, obviously for the academics, they want to know why things are the way they are and how it ticks. And I think we also, the people on that side, which from what I learned for myself, is that they learn more about certain things. They might not understand it. A lot of times, people in those positions never had that lived experience, but they can learn from people like me and say, this is how this works, that's how that works. You might think that idea from before, but I can teach you something. So I think on both ends, both parties can get a lot out of it. And then we can also make sure the system that we're leaving is also going to be better than we left it before. So I think it's beneficial in that way. And I think all systems should honestly have people on both sides to make sure that we can have the common good for the people and things can be changed.
And Kadisha, can I ask you, how has your experience been on these two projects you've been part of?
I think, honestly, I like how it is going. You get to, it's not only me on the board. I have about, I want to say 7 or 8 other families that we have. And they come to give their insight because we all have different lived experience, even though it's the same experience in a nutshell, having a child under 5, but we have different experiences and coming in from different states into New York City. So I like it. I like that people are listening to us and learning from us, and that we don't feel dismissed. Sometimes in these positions, you can feel tokenized. But in this particular groups that I've been in, I see that they take our word what we're saying. And obviously everything that you say is not gonna be the wonderful idea, right? That's nobody's gonna have, every idea they have is gonna be amazing. But they do take what we are saying and make sure that it can be part of the group, or maybe if we say this line doesn't sound right, maybe change that. It's always taken into consideration, and most times what we do, we come into a middle ground. And I think that's what it is. It's not too much academic, it's not too much lived experience. It's coming to a middle ground to make sure that we can have the best for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what we've been doing with our quantitative surveys, for example, is like we sense check our language with our committees to make sure that it's appropriate language, it's understandable, or does this make sense in terms of policies? So,
Thank you.
like I said, project would not be possible without our amazing families.
Thank you so much. Thank you to both of you. I don't know if you noticed, guys, but I haven't introduced Natasha, and she's right next to me. So I'm going to introduce you a little bit. So Natasha still wears many hats. Mostly as a creative practitioner with lived experience of homelessness, specializing in health and well-being. But in here, today's panel, she's going to be representing her additional work with the Open University, assisting on access and participation project, improving students' outcome in the faculties of well-being, education, and language studies. Incredible. I guess, from everything you heard from Diana and Kadisha, what strikes you in mind with you when it comes to Open University's access to participation?
So the Open University have been funded by the government and through the Office for Students to improve student outcomes and to basically try and resolve the awarding gap for students. So a lot of the time there's this situation where students might enrol and they have their best intentions, but they don't complete their first assignment, and so they drop out. And so there's money to invest in looking at why that happens and to research it. With the Open University, they've invested in 14 interns for the WELS faculty, the Wellbeing, Education, Language Studies, to then pick up specific projects within that and kind of pick them apart. And I'm working on improving student outcomes and that induction stage as to why a student might drop out in that time. And obviously one of those reasons could be homelessness. There's a lot of issues obviously around people that live in areas of deprivation or have been raised in an area of deprivation, and there's issues around digital poverty as well. So all of the interns have lived experience of some kind, whether they themselves come from an area of deprivation, they have a disability. They're basically the people which would usually fall into that awarding gap. And they have to have been a recent student or be studying still with the Open University. So it means that we all give real life experience to the project that we're working on. which, yeah, it's a great way of doing research. I think it's a really smart way, and it's really fresh in all the students' minds as to how what their journey through the Open University looked like, and why it might have meant that they struggled with their studies.
So is it similar to what Diana just said? Like you have a group of, like for in your case, students, and then you're co-creating those code of practice with them? Is that how it works?
So we are individually working on our own projects, and then we have a peer group. We come together, we can come together twice a month if we want to, and we can catch up on our individual projects and talk about how we're doing, how we're finding that role, because obviously there's kind of sometimes a bit of battling with whether it's with different faculty leads or with team members, just trying to explain those access issues and feeding back. So for me, I'm reading loads of different material around access and participation, digital poverty, feeding it back to the Associate Dean for the Wells faculty, and then she looks to go further up the chain to try and improve things. And the Open University is the biggest university in the UK, one of the biggest in Europe, and they are. It's tricky because in some ways they're the most accessible university, because you can study anywhere. You can study in a library, you can complete a degree. In other ways, digital poverty comes in, and if you don't have access to that technology, then that's a problem. But they have scholarships such as the Open Futures Sanctuary Scholarship, which is for refugees, and people have the last slide was about a lady who's featured quite a lot on, like there was a documentary on MTV made about her and how she studied with Leah Gibson. She was homeless when she was doing her social sciences degree, and she was using libraries to study. So she's a kind of really good case study. She's gone on to then do an MA with the Open University. And she's now running an organisation in London that's around community payback essentially. Brilliant. So it's just that the idea that at the moment, though, going back to these project roles, is that we work together to try and improve access and participation for students.
Incredible. Thank you so much. It sounds really extremely co-creative. This is one of our ethos here at Awesome Homeless International. Christina, if I can bring you in your hat with Northumberland University, from everything you've heard today, I guess continuing from that, what is the benefits of community-based participative research and the good practice, or maybe example of good practice that you have from your universities, and is there any things that struck to your mind from what Natasha mentioned about Open University?
There's a couple of things that I can sort of give as examples directly from our people with lived experience. So one of the things we did in the project we ran before the See Me North project, which was sort of a project to bring people together ready to do this project, one of the things we did was to actually hand over a chunk of the budget to our people with lived experience to allow them to design what they wanted. So I can't remember if it was £10,000 or £20,000, but it was a decent chunk of money, and we allowed them or facilitated them to create their own creative project in whatever way they wanted. So I think we ended up with around 5 creative projects. We funded the development of a kitchen where people could learn to cook. We funded a clothes bank. We funded a cycle library where people would be able to go and borrow cycles and go out for bike rides. We also facilitated someone to learn how to do and to get the tools to do cycle repair so that they could help keep those bikes on the road. And we funded trips for 180 people experiencing homelessness, which was called the Hope Project. Like I said, it's designed by one of our people with lived experience. And he talked about how if you've got no happy memories, it's difficult to bring yourself out of a dark place. So what he wanted to do was give all of the people that he could at least one happy memory. So there was trips to the beach, trips out for fish and chips, trips to the cinema, and lots of people got to go. So that was one of the things we did, was handing over the budget, and they took control, and they really found value and respect in that. One of the other things that we did was much smaller, and it was just that we all ate the same food at the same time, and that meant so much to them that we all just sat down and ate a meal together, and everyone ate the same thing, and we did that every time we met, and we still do that every time we meet. And these small things as examples of good practice meant so much to our people with lived experience. But I think coming back to the benefits, I think we've learned as much and got as much from our people with lived experience as they have from the project. They really helped us challenge some of our assumptions and be braver than we might have been. And like that whole work package 1 around trauma-informed care was designed by our people with lived experience, and if they hadn't been brave and bold and developed that work package, we might not have it in the way that we do. So they've done so much for the research project. And then bringing them together with practitioners every few months. We've had practitioners who are quite hard, financially driven practitioners, some of them in big structures like the NHS, break down in tears because it's been the first time they've heard these stories firsthand. So these people that they've been making decisions about, actually getting to humanise them and see them as people and not just numbers on a spreadsheet in their room. So that was big. I suppose what relates slightly to the Open University stuff is that we have a course. We have a 10-week module and a 20-week module where people can come to university, or people with lived experience, and actually take a course at university regardless of any previous qualifications, even if they don't have any at all.
Oh, wow.
So they can start slowly coming back to education and working through those modules, getting degree credits for them. So eventually, hopefully, if we've got enough modules, being able to build up towards doing a degree. So really having a go at kind of widening participation and throwing open our doors and making sure that people feel welcome in the building and come and enjoy what is on offer at the university. So really trying to do some of that work that the Open University are doing, and I don't think I've heard of many others doing it yet, so it's really exciting.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that insight. There's a lot of kind of fun examples going through my head from TV drama, but I'd rather not name them. But I think, Melina, if I just bring you in, I'm curious to know, and I know Linda is not here, so I suppose my question...
Linda needs to come into the breakout room now.
Oh, brilliant.
So he can be part of it.
Oh,
he was listening to the translations now in the other room.
Got yeah. Well, welcome, Linda, if you can hear me. We're very excited to hear your contribution shortly. But I suppose, Melina, from everything you heard, how do we ensure core researchers with lived experience of homelessness are empowered and not exploited? And do you have an example where you've seen firsthand exploitation, and how has that been overcome?
Yes, so a little bit on that. So for us, the most important thing is communication. And although sometimes it is challenging, it's important for us to have a way to communicate, to see how the other one is feeling, and to see what we want to do, why we want to do it, and find a way that we are all in the same line when we go to action. And for us, it's more important the relationships we build, the bonds we build with them, and doing science is not really the priority. So I think that's a really big point. For example, last year we had to do we wanted to do for a project a survey on violence, because that's really scaling institutional violence. And it was really hard because the context was really rough in Argentina the past year, and it still like that. So actually that got to a second side. We didn't do it, we postponed it because we were doing so many actions on prevention and talking together. We did a fanzine on how to act when the police comes. So we were doing a lot of things that came from communication. It came from meeting and seeing, okay, what we need to do really are other kinds of activities, you see. So I would really like for Winter to talk on this. So I'll give him a little bit of the context of the question, because we had like a problem with the translation. So I'm going to speak in Spanish now. Inter, ¿querés contar un poco sobre cómo te sentís en el equipo? Y la pregunta que nos hacían es cómo pasar más al empoderamiento y no a la explotación, un poco lo que hablábamos antes. ¿Querés hablar ahí?
Hola, buenas. ¿Se escucha ahí?
Hola, Linda, sí se escucha. Por favor, ¿podrías hablar con una pausa, decir algo a pausar para poder hacer la traducción? Gracias.
Muy bien, no hay problema, gracias a vos. Bueno, yo hace ya varios años participo del equipo, ¿no? Estuve muchos años en situación de calle, soy una persona trans que transicioné en situación de calle a pasar a ser una masculinidad trans, hoy, ¿no? En día. Entonces formo parte del equipo desde hace muchos años. Estuve muchos años en situación de calle.
Voy a traducir eso, Linta.
Dale.
Okay, so basically Linta has been part of this team for many years now, and in the same way he was several years as a homeless person, and in fact transitioned in homelessness. So it was kind of difficult having that kind of getting that masculinity whilst transitioning, being homeless. Continúa, Linta, por favor.
Entonces, como les venía diciendo, como poder encontrarse con personas que podamos como activar, digamos, el pensamiento, ¿no? Para amortiguar la violencia que existe en la calle hacia las personas en situación de calle. Como, por ejemplo, la violencia institucional, la violencia social, ¿no? Como pensar en encontrarse con diferentes personas de organizaciones sociales que puedan acompañar este dolor, porque es un padecimiento que yo siempre digo, pienso con otros, que es un padecimiento de salud pública.
Voy a traducir eso.
Dale.
Okay, so it's important to find people to actually help us to find a way and to help us to reject the violence, any type of violence, institutional violence, social violence. So my main point is that I find it quite interesting and very important that we are able to get those people, to get to know those people, to be part of that group and have the support of those organizations to help us realize that we don't have to go through all this pain alone, because in a way we suffer. It's a pain that we suffer. Continúa.
Entonces podemos pensar cómo crear, ¿no? Una comunidad sólida para amortiguar esas violencias. Entonces, con el equipo venimos ahí acompañando. Yo me sumé a este equipo porque pensamos también que esto, ¿no? Pensar las co-investigaciones, no pensar a las personas en situación de calle como un conejito de India a investigar, sino poder unir las experiencias de la universidad, la calle, el arte, ¿no? Cómo esas tres cosas pueden amortiguar todas estas violencias. ¿Querés como...?
So it's important to create, that we create a sense of a community, a very solid community. It's very important to have, for me, it was important to be part of this team. I came in and I saw that I wasn't treated like a guinea pig, because we are not guinea pigs. Homeless people are not guinea pigs. And it just joined the experience that the academia can bring in with the experience of the arts and also the homelessness. So it's a combination of all those three elements and how we can work together.
Brilliant. Thank you so
¿Listo?
much.
Entonces, cómo a partir de todo eso, ¿no? Podemos crear y tejer vínculos, ¿no? Porque trasciende, ¿no? Como un taller de arte, un taller de radio, como venimos haciendo, de pintura, de, no sé, generalmente no sucede, vamos, hacemos el taller y nos vamos, punto. Pero lo que viene sucediendo hace ya unos años es que esto, se generan vínculos. Entonces, cuando ese vínculo trasciende el taller de radio, el taller de pintura, se arma un afecto. Entonces, el poder acompañar desde el afecto me parece muy importante en una situación tan cruel y tan violenta como es la situación de calle.
So we actually, know that from that we can create a link, and having a link is very important because we can create that link through the workshops that we have. And sometimes you can have workshops, art, radio, painting, and you attend them, you go there, you do whatever, and then that's it. But it's actually what goes beyond that, what comes out of that. It's not just doing a workshop for the sake of doing it. It's creating a link, a human link, something that goes beyond everything. And because we, at the end of the day, we have a mutual feeling, and we can feel that we are part of something bigger than everything else. And the important thing as well is that there's no cruelty, that we can fight against cruelty.
Bueno, también desde el equipo siempre pensamos que el proceso es todo el año, digamos, ¿no? Como, no sé, aquí en Argentina está pasando una ola de calor en este momento y desde los medios hegemónicos y de todo, aquí en Argentina estamos pasando también por un gobierno fascista, así que, bueno, eso también habla de que es un síntoma de violencia que está acrecentándose. Entonces por aquí estamos pasando por una ola de calor, digo, y eso como no se está hablando en esos medios hegemónicos ni desde el Estado, de ningún lado. Son las organizaciones sociales quienes acompañan. Lo mismo cuando hace frío, lo mismo cuando llueve, digamos.
Okay.
No nos tenemos que recordar siempre. Sí, dale.
So basically this is a process all year round, something that we do throughout the year. And it's important, for example, right now we have here in Argentina, we have a heat wave. And sometimes the media just talks about that, but they don't talk about other things that are happening. For example, we know that the government right now in Argentina is a fascist government. A government that doesn't really care about the social injustices and also the violence. We don't talk about the violence. The media doesn't talk about it. But it's only those social organizations that actually go to the front and talk about it and do something about it.
Thank you so much. I'm just mindful of the time. Thank you so much for your contribution. I'm just going to get the rest of the panels to respond to your contribution there, Linda. I really appreciate your remarks. Before I bring you Diana and Khadija, Natasha, from everything you heard there, what strikes your mind in terms of like the interdisciplinary between art and homelessness? You know, like you spoke a lot about language, you spoke a lot about access. How do we ensure academic research papers, we're often full of jargons, full of years of research, and then when the result is out, it's often like completely difficult for the layman person to understand and process it. What has been your experience from working with Upper University to kind of dismantle that?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously being a digital university, using videos and audio is a huge thing. So I graduated last year. I studied part-time, and there were lots of videos, there were lots of audio, which means from a neurodiverse point of view that was really accessible, and that is use of media. And we're now talking as well for new students creating that. They're creating like I think a VR studio of some kind, but a 360 sort of tour that you can do of the Open University site. So it makes it feel like a real university as well for people that, because it's not a brick it is a brick university, but you're not attending a brick university. So it's more digital art in a way, and thinking about it from a creative point of view of creative ways of accessing learning. And then there's also something around when it comes to the research and using students with lived experience, supporting them in a creative way and making sure that they can provide input in a creative manner as well, and they're supported in a creative way. So for instance, it could be that, you know, a way of logging feedback is through using voice recordings, pictures, drawings, to be able to explain what they mean. And when we're looking at at the moment we're looking at co-creating a type of, we're calling it at the moment a summer school, but it'll basically be like a pre-induction period for people that haven't quite started their studies yet. So it'd be an introduction to what is it like being with the Open University, but also maybe what are people's biggest fears initially. So is that actually they don't have access to a computer, we need to look at that. But they've specifically said to me, think of creative ways that this can be approached. Amazing. And because they know like I'm a creative, so that's really amazing, isn't it? They're kind of willing to say, well, like, okay, think of creative ways that we could deliver this school, and we've got this studio that we're going to build, and or we're having built, and can we have it so that it's interactive. So something to explore, and they're really willing to. It's not. It's still lots of work to be done, even though it's a digital university. But you can be really creative with it from that point of view because the audience is global.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And keep us updated and posted with that.
Thank you.
Diana, if I just bring you in this conversation, obviously we're in our third day of the Arts and Homelessness Summit. And I guess my question to you is, like, how can we use academic research to demonstrate the importance of arts and homelessness and the creativity in that? One of the research papers that we did in AHI demonstrating the importance of the arts have in homelessness sector in terms of agency, the increase of resilience, the increase of knowledge, the increase of skills, and that is actually our ethos in terms of all the programming and the project that we do. And I guess from your experience, what has that been?
So what we're doing with our project is we'll be doing a public engagement plan alongside the project, and our outputs will be based on our findings, and our public engagement plan will be co-developed as well. But what's really important to do with any public engagement project is to have some sort of evaluation to understand what people have gotten out of it. So, as you said, resilience or some sort of hope or understanding. So we did art therapy workshops. How did they feel beforehand? How did they feel afterwards? So that's something we're looking at. Next year, we're looking at doing legislative participatory theater workshops based on our findings, and that's supposed to be with the public. So that's, again, another way of including the arts and homelessness together, and also bringing the topic of our research to different audiences. And that's also very important because sometimes people are like, oh, academic research, and don't want to have to deal with it. But, public engagement is a way to bring it to a much broader audience. I'm one of the people who scratches their head when something has too much jargon in a paper and it's really too difficult to understand. So I really empathize with that. So that's why I try to think of many different creative ways of how we can communicate the research to different groups.
Brilliant. Khadisha, anything you'd like to add from that?
I just wanted to say, one other part that we added on with the art therapy, we're actually going to be putting on a gallery, and we're going to have the people participate in that and to show their work and how they feel about their experience. And it's going to be, I can't wait for it. It's going to be very exciting, and we get to ask the people who coming in a question, and then by the end of it, we'll ask them basically the same question to see if what we showed them gave the presentation about, did it change their mind about what they think homelessness is about. And that's the one creative way. I'm also going to be filming, because I do YouTube and things like that, filming the process and asking families questions and making sure their voices are heard, because a lot of times it's just, with all the jargon that you said, people don't really understand it. But if you hear from the people who they're coming from and who's being affected, you can understand and get that out there for the public to understand our process and what we have to go through in that situation.
Brilliant, thank
and
you.
Also,
go on.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So this process, all the families are getting some sort of translational skills. So whether it's getting public speaking skills through doing a podcast, or co-curational skills for putting on the exhibition, that's what this whole project is about, is that they're getting some sort of skills out of it as well. It's not that they're just providing us information. We really want this to be sort of a development program as well. And we also provide them with opportunities or direct them in the way of opportunities to say, oh, you should be a consultant on this project. You'd be great for that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Diana. I really appreciate that, Khadija. Christina, if I bring you in here, in terms of like, I guess intellectual property and like being credited in an academic research paper is very crucial for people. I wonder, like, with your engaging of co-researchers or people with lived experience of homelessness, where does crediting lies in here, and how does their name noted in the journals?
It can be really tricky because some of the academic journals won't allow you to be named on a paper unless you're affiliated with a university, which requires having a university email address. That is, for some of our experts by experience, our people with lived experience, sort of possible because they come on our university course and therefore they'll have a university email address. We will always try and publish where it is possible to have their names on, but where it's not possible to have them named as authors, they'll always be mentioned in the acknowledgements firstly, and it'll be made clear in there that they were authors, even if we can't name them that way through the authorship of the paper. There's always a section on co-production where it's made very clear who was involved in writing the paper as well. But for us, ideally, we would want authorship where we can, particularly where people have actually contributed to the paper and its development. We really do hope to write papers as we go on. We're in the very early stages, so we haven't actually published yet, but we do hope to include people where we can.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Milena, hello. I guess I'm mindful of the time, so before we open the floor to questions both from the people in person here in London and online, what would your advice be to anyone that is going to engage in a new co-created and co-produced research with people with experience of homelessness? What are the key questions what are the key learning that have you learned, first as you learned yourself being engaged in this project, that you can pass on, and what would they be?
Wow, that's a great question. So I would say to be flexible, to be creative. We are always working in between, so the tensions that Christine just mentioned are something that is really of daily basis for us as well. And we always have to be fighting those tensions between the requirements of the academy and what we want to do. So it's always finding creative solutions, and it's the same on daily basis. And to, I don't really know how to say in English, but to let yourself be out there, be affected by everything, be in touch with everyone, talk with everyone, try to keep up and to understand that it's more than, it's mostly an ethical and political project. Is because we believe in interdependence and that we all depend on each other, and it's to have the goal in mind of what we want to build, and we want to build something together, something that makes sense for the community, and yeah, to keep that in mind, because sometimes it is challenging, and it is challenging. There's a lot of tensions and a lot of challenges and obstacles out there, but to keep in mind that what you're doing it goes beyond that. So I think that would be something for the people to join us, to talk with each other. Like there's so many people working from a co-research perspective, a participatory approach around the globe. So to create those networks, because as we are hearing right now, it's hard everywhere, to fight those tensions. So if we create those networks of those who are working with this approach, maybe we can build something out of it. So I think, it would be great to build those networks, and that would be kind of like my advice.
Thank you so much.
Can I go into the question?
Yes, please. Could you address? Could you address it to Linda as well? Thank you.
Yeah. Inter, ¿me escuchas? Nos están preguntando qué consejo le daríamos a alguien para que se anime a hacer un equipo de co-investigación, a participar de un equipo de co-investigación. ¿Por qué es importante y qué aprendimos de eso?
Está apagado, ¿Está apagado o no? ¿Te escucha?
¿Se escucha bien? Sí, te escucho bien.
No sé si es un consejo, pero vuelvo a repetir esto, como empezar a activar la escucha desde el acercamiento, desde el afecto, desde eso, desde el acercarse, ¿no? Como vamos a hacer un taller de radio, sí, vamos a juntarnos a armar un fanzine, no sé, vamos, pero por sobre todo es eso, es aprenderse el nombre, por lo menos, ¿no? Como encontrarse desde ahí. Acercarse, buen día, buenas tardes, buenas noches, como siempre desde el equipo pensamos como que las personas en situación de calle no son peligrosas, está ahí toda una cuestión construida dentro de todos unos padeceres que, bueno, valga la redundancia, padecemos las personas que pasamos y las que están pasando por la calle, digamos que bueno, se construye toda una peligrosidad ahí que es muchas veces falsa. Entonces, como la gente no se acerca. Buen día, buenas tardes, cambia el día. Entonces, como ese es mi, entre un millón de comillas, consejo, digamos, que por ahí se empieza. Desde la escucha, desde el afecto. En estos tiempos tan crueles y tan violentos, donde en todo el mundo está pasando mucha crueldad y mucha violencia, ¿no? Acompañarnos desde ahí. Y bueno, el primer paso es ese, presentar el nombre.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, so the first step is actually know who people are, so to give our names, to know who are you talking to, so to be visible, because that's all about, because sometimes you just, you create a workshop and you say, well, let's do it and so on, but it's important to be present and to be visible. That's what we have to do, because sometimes we create like a dangerous world. We know that the world is dangerous and there's danger out there, but we need to take into account everyone who's around us. We have to know who people are and so on.
Thank you so much, Alex and Linda and Melina. I think we're running out of time. We've only got 7 minutes left. So if I could just invite you, Diana and Christina and Natasha, to same question that I posed to Melina about what would a question that you would like everyone who is going to be new to addressing this work to consider when they're going in this line of work. What would it be? And in just 30-40 seconds each. Thank you so much. I'll start with Natasha first.
So co-researching,
yeah.
So definitely just valuing that lived experience and working in a non-hierarchical way, so that one of the things that I've been doing is reverse mentoring. So so I'm a mentor to somebody that generally be seen as more senior to me, so because they're treating it in a non-hierarchical way, and it's really wonderful because it's very empowering to me. At the same time, I recognise this person has way more experience than me, but it's really wonderful. Yeah, it works really lovely, and it was an idea from other students working in the Student Voice project in the Open University to do the reverse mentoring.
That's beautiful.
It's really good.
That's really good takeaway from everyone here. Diana, for you and Khadija, what would it be?
I agree with everything Natasha just said. I think a lot of people focus a lot on the sort of negatives and challenges of engaging with people who are experiencing homelessness and CBPR. And I think as academics, we're sort of like tied to our deadlines and deliverables, and a lot of people just get really freaked out, about engaging and the challenges involved. But for me, it's you need to be very optimistic and think more about the possibilities and the benefits of it, and that it's really possible. That the work is so rich from doing it, and just sort of put the deliverables almost secondary. I mean, obviously you have to deliver something, there's no question, but you can't do research without the people who are experiencing these issues firsthand. I mean, like I've said before, it's by them for them. It's it's sort of almost impossible.
Thank you so much. Khadija?
I think, to be honest, to make it short, is have an open mind, that just listen to each other's point of view and make sure that everybody can get a say so, but really have an open mind. You might think one thing and it's something different. You can't learn everything in a book, but when a person actually experienced that moment, they can't be wrong because they experienced that moment in that sense. So I think that's for me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Christina?
I think my comment sort of builds on what Khadija said. And I think when we're developing these projects, one thing we're always asked, or one thing we ask ourselves, is how will we develop trust with the people with lived experience, and how will we get them to trust us? But what we forget is that we should start by trusting them, that we should start by trusting each other. And I think we've learned so much just by trusting each other and being brave together, and not coming with any preconceptions, and trusting people with the project. And I think as academics we can be a bit clingy and go, well, we've designed this project and we need you to come in and do your little bit. No, not with participatory research. We need to throw it open and work together, and I think that can be terrifying the first time you do it. So I think, yeah, be trusting, be brave, and just trust each other and go with it. It's a bit like I think someone said yesterday in one of the panels about improvising and doing improvisational acting kind of stuff, that you just have to go with it and don't work against it. And I think that's important in participatory research as well. Don't have this sort of academic plan of what has to happen. We have to have some kind of plan, obviously, but be open to kind of going with what comes up, and it'll take you to magical places.
It'll take you to magical places. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to be open and we're going to be brave, and we invite the online audience to ask their brave questions. What do we have, Piers?
Okay, so first one is from Kate. Hopefully they can hear me okay. Yeah, first one is from Kate. It's how do you overcome barriers of trust and privacy to collect data?
Ooh, very good. How do you build trust and overcome? Well, can you repeat it?
How do you overcome barriers of trust and privacy to collect data?
Brilliant. If I bring in Diana to that first, and then.
Sure. So in my opinion, in my experience, you have to build the trust first, and also work with the people with lived experience. And if you're collecting data, basically ask them what data they're comfortable providing. And that I've done in multiple projects. And how much they'll be willing to disclose, but also you have to be transparent about how the data is going to be stored, how long it's going to be stored, who has access to it. So and also you have to be able to talk about it in a very, in lay terms, so that they understand. And also understand, like, you're not going to be sharing this with their services, and it won't affect, it won't be used against them in any way. So I think a lot of that is you have to really think about these things ahead of time as well. So that's one of the reasons, again, we work with, our committee, is because they can think about these things ahead of time of what potential participants might feel when they get a survey. And what's important to collect. And obviously privacy is of utmost important, is our priority, and also building trust. So for example, with our consent forms, we're really collecting as little as much as possible. We just ask them to initial something, just because for the purposes of payment. We can't send them payment without like an initial, unfortunately. But like I said, we're trying to collect as little as possible, but nothing that really identifies them.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I'm mindful that other panelists may wish to respond, but we're really tight with time. But we just have one more time for one more question online, and then one more question in person. And then we'll wrap up closing remarks for the summit. Bear with us, thank you so much. Piers, what do we have?
So the other one from Daniela, who says, how do you make sure your research happens fast enough to make an impact for the people you're working with?
Brilliant. Melina, if I bring you to that.
Right, so I think like when we think about core research, we're thinking that the whole process of being a core researcher is making some impact as well. So as we said before, I wouldn't maybe talk about timing, like we have to be flexible in that and understanding that we all have different pathways and trajectories and getting to know each person that we're working with. That's the most important thing here. And seeing what its impact, you know, is what we want to achieve. What is it there? Is it focus on the result of the research that we want to do, or focus on what is important for the people we're working? So I think it depends on what we call impact there, but I think it's going deeper and asking a little bit more like what are the other people thinking about. As Diana said right now, like to talk with them, see okay how far do you want to go with data, and the same like maybe it's about different roles that we can see for each other. We are not all the same, so maybe want to be more involved in creating workshops with some of the outcomes. Some will be more interested in working with the instrument, or with taking surveys, or with talking with people. You know, so I think those are also impacts because you're working with them. So I'll be more focused on switching a little bit on what we want to achieve, to focus on the process and to make the best of that process.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I agree with Melinda, and also how do we measure impact? I think that's also very important. And just to be clear, like intervention development, if we're doing an intervention co-developing, those things do take a lot of time. Those things you have to naturally evolve. So you have to think about, you know, the trajectory of all these things, and you know this. And the size of the impact. Or you're going to have small things along the way, and then the large thing long term. So there's many different, you know, pieces to the puzzle, as I like to say.
Thank you so much. Any question in person? Do you have any question to the panelists? Yes.
Should we get the mic down?
Oh, you know the. Thank you so much.
I'm going to be the terrible person that's not going to make a question, but just add a little thing.
That's all right. Thank you so much.
No, I got really excited when this all started. I do research on homelessness as well, and back in Mexico. And when Linter came online, I was like, wow, this is exciting. I met him, in Argentina like 3 years ago. He must not remember me because I just saw him declaim a poem. For all of us, and for me it was super crucial and life-changing. I'm gonna translate myself after. Because it was a convention of only researchers on homelessness in Latin America, and we were all talking about how important it was to say that people are in a situation of homelessness. And we were all very sure about this, and then he came and read a super powerful, beautiful, artistic poem, making us see how we did not understand, like how hard it is to come out of homelessness, and how situation made it feel like it wasn't as serious as it should be. And so we all reflected about it, and it was really important and crucial that he was there to like, let us know in the end of the Congress. So I just wanted to point that like it's really, really crucial and important. And now I'm going to translate myself.
I already did the translation for Linta.
Brilliant. Cool. Thank you so much. Gracias. With that, can I just give a warm round of applause to all our panelists. Natasha Steer, Melina Spiri and Linta from Argentina, Diana, Margaret and Khadija all the way from America, and Christina Cooper from Northumbria University in the United Kingdom, and myself, Samra, in London. Thank you so much.